In the future, I want to make my own granola recipe where it's customized to what I like. But first, I'm going to study the masters. I found 3 granola recipes from famous chefs, and all of them were very highly rated. I'll try out their recipes, learn from them, and use those as a jumping off point to make my own version of the perfect granola for me. First up is Alton Brown's granola. I chose this recipe because it looked like a really good classic standard granola. I've made some of Alton Brown's other recipes and they've always turned out good. And I like him and I think he has good recipes. So I thought it was a good place to start. And I wasn't the only one who was excited for this. We have Bonnie Girl who's doing some quality control alongside me. This recipe has rolled oats, slivered almonds, cashews, shredded sweet coconut, dark brown sugar, maple syrup, vegetable oil, salt, and raisins. The first time that I make a recipe, I usually follow it to the T so I could understand what the chef envisioned for this recipe. But in this case, I didn't have shredded sweet coconut. I had coconut flakes or chips, and they weren't sweet. And I forgot to put in the brown sugar. So in this case, this recipe is missing both of them. And I think it was sweet enough, even without the brown sugar. And I actually preferred the large piece of coconut because they crisped up so nicely. When I transferred the granola onto the sheet pan, I thought, my, that looks pretty thick. And then I reread the recipe and realized he said to spread it out between 2 sheet pans and you cook it for an hour and 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, you take it out and you turn it and scrape it to make sure it doesn't stick and it doesn't burn. At the end, we'll compare them. But just so you know, it turned out so good. Good job, Alton Brown. Next up is Gordon Ramsay's granola, and this one had some unexpected ingredients. I haven't made his recipes before. I'm not too familiar with what to expect. I just see him a lot on television or YouTube or Instagram. Um, he seems to have a lot of opinions. That's all I know about him. But people seem to like him, so I figured I'd try this out. This recipe has honey, vanilla extract, rolled oats, puffed rice, almonds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, linseeds or flaxseed, raisins, and cranberries. I was so surprised that this recipe didn't have any added salt and it had no oil in it. This recipe also gets cooked on the baking sheet, and I should have realized from the first one, I need to spread it out on 2 sheets because when I put it in initially, it was just too thick. And so I wound up separating them into 2 sheets. One that was not seasoned. This one is the not seasoned one with the silpat underneath. And then the other one was on the seasoned pan. And I knew this, but I forgot that they bake at different rates. So I wound up burning half of it. I like it a little bit burnt, but my husband preferred the other version of it. The last recipe is from Chef John from Food Wishes. I've watched his videos for years. He's really entertaining. I think I've only made a handful of his recipes, but I really like watching his stuff, and he has some great ideas. This recipe is a chocolate granola, which sounded so good. In this recipe, you have brown sugar, maple syrup, vegetable oil, vanilla extract, salt, cayenne pepper, unsweetened cocoa powder, rolled oats, and almonds. He frequently adds cayenne pepper to both sweet and savory dishes, and he says that if you add a pinch of cayenne pepper, nobody will really notice, but they will notice if you don't. I think that's true, and now I do that because of him. Now I've made all of the granolas and they're sitting out on trays on the dining room table, cooling down before I add the fruit to each of them. I remember the first time I tried making granola, I put the fruit on the tray with the other stuff when I was baking it, and it did not turn out good. Don't do that. Now that everything is cooled down and the fruit is mixed in, it's time to talk about each of these granolas. Okay, we're going to get to talk about granola. Isn't that exciting? So a few days ago, I made these 3 different versions of granola because I want to make my own version later on. This might sound nuts, but It is January of 2025, and I was thinking that I want to get a good recipe together. That way I could get it ready for Christmas of 2025 because I don't like scrambling last minute and I like to try to make homemade gifts, things that people couldn't necessarily buy. So that's one of the reasons why I want to make this granola and I want to perfect it. Not that you could ever make anything perfect because everyone has different tastes, but I want to make it to the taste that I like. So that's why we're trying out these three granolas. So the first one that we did is Alton Brown's granola. It's so good. it's so good. It's crispy. It has lots of crunch. It's not hard. It's like delicate crunch. It's really nice. I love that it has the almonds and the cashews, so it's a different type of crunchiness. Has the raisins in there, so that's a nice contrast too. And one of the things that I liked is that I put in coconut chips instead of shredded coconut, and those are just like perfectly like crisp and crunchy. So for my future recipe, I want to use this as the base, but I'm going to change just a few things. No brown sugar, like is in the original recipe, but remember I forgot to put it in this one. I think it's sweet enough. And I'm going to use the coconut chips because I think that was really nice. Next up, we had the second granola. This was the Gordon Ramsay one. This one was the most different out of all the granola recipes. It had the puffed rice, which I really liked. I'm going to take that idea and use it for my version. It's just like a nice textural difference. I was surprised that there was no oil in here, and yet everything is still crispy, really tasty. I like that it had pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, linseed, I think is what it's called. Linseed, but also flaxseed. At least here in the US, it's called flaxseed. And it had almonds, and it had craisins and raisins. It was really good. What I'm going to take from this one is the puffed rice and the flaxseed. I really like those. So I would think I would call this one the most like healthy of the granolas. I'm sure you could debate whether or not granola is healthy at all, um, but this would be the closest. So it was really good. I was very impressed by it, especially because it was so different. And the last one is the Chef John chocolate granola. This one was really good too. Had the same type of crispiness as the first one. The things that made it different were the cocoa powder. So I'm going to add that to my future recipe, and the cayenne pepper. That was great. I'm definitely going to add that too. So this will be the base. Puffed rice and flaxseed from this one. Cocoa powder and cayenne powder for this one. Plus I'm going to add in chia seeds. Yeah. Let me think. Is there anything else? I did remember there was something else I wanted to do. In the next recipe, I'm going to switch out the vegetable oil for coconut oil. Plus, I'm going to add in dried cherries because I love dried cherries. Those are so good. So I'm going to try it again next week with the alterations inspired by these recipes. I'm going to link these recipes down below so you can find them. They're really good. If you're looking for a good granola recipe, I highly recommend any of them. And come back next week if you want to see a new one that I'm going to try. We'll see how it goes. All right, take care. Bye. Bye-bye, bye, bye-bye, bye.